everybody, it's Drybear. And we need to talk about the pre-order bonuses for Stalker 2, as well as some of the new highlights and dev blogs they put out for the game in anticipation of its release on Wednesday. Now, I had just put out a video going over the controversy around the performance question on the game, the minimum specs, and how the devs have been facing that kind of situation. So I'll leave a link to that down below in the comments and in the description if you wanted to watch that video. However, there are still pre-orders available for the game. If you do believe in the game and you believe in the story and the challenges that the dev team have gone through, GSC, over the last 10, 12 years or so, that have really struggled getting this game out. And also the fact, moving on to Unreal 5, 5.5, and making the game look as good as it can and as current gen as possible, while still sticking true to their roots. Much of the original team for Stalker back in 2007, 2010 is on this team here, and they're trying to continue that legacy with this game. And overall, the game looks awesome. So if you're on the fence about it, I would say, you can just wait to see how the game comes out on Wednesday, whether it's going to perform well or where it's going to function properly, or if you're just going to get it on Game Pass and you're going to play it on Xbox, that's perfectly fine too. But let's talk about what you can get if you do decide to support the devs with either a pre-order or one of their higher editions. Now, if you just flat out pre-order the game, which means you just buy the game before it comes out, there are some nice goodies that you can get that you can show off, especially if you're someone who thinks you might be playing this for a long period of time. Stalker games always have something different going on with every playthrough. What's great about this, and I talked about this a couple days ago, but what's great about the Stalker games is they very much have this kind of open world setting, more so than most open world games. Open world is thrown around a lot in today's media for gaming, and I think Stalker represents what open world should be, in that whether you're there or not, the world exists away from you, right? There are interactions between factions, there's raids going on, monsters and mutants are fighting each other, hunting for food, dragging their food back to their lair. Everything's going on without you, and you're just part of that world. It doesn't feel like you have main character syndrome where everything revolves around you. And I think because of that, there's so much RNG around what anomalies you can run into, what you decide to find, which artifacts you locate, and what happens around you, that each playthrough feels completely different than previous. So you might end up playing this game quite a few times, depending on how interested and how much you're enjoying how much you're enjoying the game. So for the basic pre-order, you will be able to get what the strongest weapon that existed in the original Stalker series, which is the 9mm sniper rifle. This veteran weapon. They're representing that weapon, which was pretty much busted in the original games. Everyone used it if they wanted to have the strongest weapon. And by the way, I think Stalker is best played on the highest possible difficulty. The high difficulty adds to the ambiance and the pressure and the intensity of the world, and everything feels like death is around every corner. So you get that special cool weapon, but you also get 3 different Stalker suits that you can use, plus additional campfire content. Here's a close-up on the 9mm sniper rifle. This veteran rifle here, it's got a nice look to it, got a nice wraparound for the silencer, especially if you're playing the hardest difficulty. Silencers are also incredibly valuable because you can stop yourself from being caught or by alerting enemies that may be nearby and being swarmed immediately. This is the first of the 3 suits. This is the tourist suit. In a lot of cases, your suit, I'm actually not confirmed if they are going to be doing durability the same way they do in other Stalker games, but the way your suit looks and the way you represent yourself has a big impact on how you travel through the exclusion zone outside of Chernobyl, right? Like radiation, how you get affected by attacks, bullets, slashes, bites from monsters and mutants, so all of that stuff. So this is the first one. This is the initial tourist skin that you can get as part of the pack. With another look at it here, kind of looking further away, it's very straightforward and very simple, but I think it's probably going to be kind of a nice look that you can have with you for the rest of forever while you decide to play Stalker 2. And if you really like it, you might end up playing it again in the future, maybe years from now, and you'll still have this content available. You can also get the early bird backpack, which is labeled and marked with the engram here. And it also comes with guitar tunes and additional stories so you can play out in the game. And guitars are a big part of this. A lot of times people inside the zone are just trying to survive, trying to get enough food to eat, trying to avoid the anomalies and the monsters, and just trying to avoid being irradiated to death. And so having like little moments where they can eat, hang out, sleep, play guitar, and hang out with like music is a big part. So you'll find that little camps of stalkers are in an area that's just playing along. So having extra tunes might be pretty cool. Now, Now, they've also done a series of physical copy runs for the game as well. They initially had done these prior, and then they sold out. Then they started another run of them, and I think that on the main website they're sold out, but there's also a bunch of vendors that have these available. So if you're a Super Stalker fan and you want to get access to these, there might still be some locations that you can find it. They have an Ultimate Edition that comes with a whole bunch of art books, individual gadgets like a Stalker figurine, some of the like letters to the developer, you know, dog tags, things like that. And you might be able to get all of these together still in some locations, and you'll have to find different spots to find us. There is the Ultimate Edition, Collector's Edition, which has some of the same things, but something different inside of it as well. A Limited Edition, which has no figurine, but has some of the doodads and gadgets. And of course, the physical copy of the Standard Edition. Now, aside from the pre-order bonuses, there's plenty of reasons to be excited about Stalker 2. They added in the same feel that the original games had. And I think the first game was focused on one individual artifact, which I won't spoil in this video on what the story of the original Stalker was. But then when they started adding like Clear Sky and Call of Pripyat, that's when they started talking about emissions as well as lots of artifacts appearing that all do different things. If you're not someone who has been caught up on the Stalker universe, I can give you a very quick elevator pitch on it. Chernobyl explodes, everything goes radioactive, and the world starts changing around that area. Then you as a character go into the zone, and the Stalkers develop as a group of people that are willing to dive into the zone and try to collect things of value or resources, or maybe even clear out evildoers inside of the zone to kind of bring those things out and sell them for money. And it usually attracts people that are deviants, right? People that don't have a life to go back to, people that are wanted for some criminal aspects. And there's also just a huge wide range of stalkers you'll run into that have different perspectives on the world. Now, the original game focused a lot on the gunplay, using bolts to interact with anomalies, and also just fighting with the other factions and other humans inside of the game. But as we started moving on to Clear Sky, the prequel, as well as Call of Pripyat, we started getting a lot more into the supernatural side of things with different interactions you can have with the game. And they're taking it a step further with Stalker 2 in that they want to have tons of different artifacts that you can use. And in a recent post, they have talked about what some of them are as a representation. So let's walk through the ones that they've teased for us that we can see are available in the game. So again, it is a, modern current gen Unreal 5 shooter with tons of like hardcore shooter elements, but there's going to be a lot of superpowers as well as supernatural effects. The first artifact that they talk about is the Soul artifact, which is this one here, an iconic and one of the most superstitious findings in electro anomalies. This is the zone souvenir of choice and a beloved artifact of stalkers because of its energizing properties, making active movement less exhausting and seemingly more fun. Despite its fragile appearance, no known method exists to damage or shatter it. And this is kind of one of the cool things about stalkers. It feels very SCP-like in that there's all these different items, artifacts, and monsters that have a wide range of ways you can interact with them. Are they destructible? Are they not? Can you actually get near them? That sort of thing. So the Soul artifact, these are one of the many artifacts you could find rarely inside of the zone that do different things. And this one seems like it might give you infinite stamina or a higher movement speed, which can be super useful in a fight. Next up is the Stone Heart. No one knows for sure the man who found it first and created the tale. To this day, stalkers claim the controller's heart resembles this common gravitational artifact. Any recorded disproof hasn't appeared yet, though. Long-term interaction with mammal species leads to an increase in their connective tissue density. For local subjects, that mainly means they can grab and carry more precious scrap. This probably just ups your equipment load, so while you have this artifact, you can have much more items in your inventory. It is a realistic kind of shooter. I hearken it to kind of like extraction shooters where you want to try and grab as much stuff as you can, but obviously there's a limit in your inventory and your carrying capacity, and having artifacts like the Stone Heart might make that very valuable. And because it is a lawless wasteland in the Stalker universe inside of the zone, you'll want to try and grab as much as you can, find traders, vendors, and other stalkers that you can sell things to get more money, which allows you to buy really valuable items, suits, protective hazmat gear, or even better weapons, RPGs, things like that, from other vendors. So it's a big marketplace that you'll be going around buying and selling, so having something that allows you to increase your equipment load could be very valuable. Mama's Beads is considered a lucky find. This thermal artifact is is highly profitable due to its demand on the black market and its beneficial biochemical effects on its bearer. A game-changing booster that influences the bloodstream, it allows stalkers to almost forget about using bandages or other conventional ways to stop bleeding. There are tons of status effects in Stalker games, becoming irradiated, starting bleeding if you get hit by a mutant or someone shoots you, and that bleeding effect can get worse and worse, and can also be, if you don't treat it properly with a bandage or with some kind of treatment, you may be stuck in having your HP drop to 0 when you're in the zone. So having Mama's Beads as an option means that you can stop bleeding just by having this, which means you can start customizing your build even further. The Kolobok is not easy to find, even harder to keep. It looks like those like liquid iron statues, or like a little porcupine or sea urchin. This chemical artifact can slip from its bearer by stinging with microfilaments and transforming into an amorphous mass. Properly secluded, it warps the cell structures of nearby organisms, making it remarkably resistant to any type of aggressive chemical agents. This is a way for you to increase your resistances. And in all Stalker games, and even Stalker-like games like Chernobyl, being able to have the right resistances to enter some areas, the amount of radiation and chemical aggressiveness in some areas is not consistent across the zone. The zone outside of Chernobyl is varied. There's tons of anomalies, gravity flips upside down, things catch on fire, the atmosphere burns, electricity comes out of nowhere, seemingly with no source, organisms get mutated and start attacking you, everything's different. So you might find some stash areas or special zones or points of interest that have certain chemical resistances that are required in order to enter into and loot, and it's possible that having the Kolobok is something that you can actually use to circumvent the need to have a specific hazmat suit in order to enter those areas. Lastly is the Magic Cube, which looks kind of like the animal meat or the flesh belt add-ons from the early Stalker games. Only the luckiest and most experienced artifact hunters get a chance to take a hold of this rare treasure of gravitational anomalies. Its mechanism is still not researched properly, but the effect is notable. Tangible damping of external kinetic energy bursts. Extremely valuable and nearly invisible while being irradiated by the infrared spectrum. The zone is full of wonders, and these are just a few of dozens of artifacts that can be found, exchanged, looted, sold, traded. Whether you seek to make a fortune or embrace the risks and rewards of using them, the choice is yours. And what's cool about these is there can be downsides and upsides. Sometimes, usually they have an upside and a downside, a trade-off. And in the lore of Stalker, most of these have things that can go crazy upside, but also can fail as well. In like the backstory lore for Stalker, there could be an artifact that has some crazy anomaly on it that causes your skin to become harder than diamonds. And while you're using it, you can't take damage. However, if you somehow got hit enough times while having that artifact in your possession, your DNA would start to crumble and fall apart, right? So the lore itself is very much enriched with these crazy wide range of SCP level curiosities that happen inside of the zone. So having the Magic Cube and the Kolobok and Mama's Beads, Stoneheart, and Soul as teased options for us, we can create some really interesting builds based on what we play. But let me know what you think down below. Are you someone that's going to be pre-ordering the game and getting some of the goodies? Are you waiting to see how the game is going to perform? And what do you think about these artifacts that got teased by the devs just recently? If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.